Just take a picture of one of your.
Good morning. For those of you that are joining us via Google Meet, the ones on the phone that end in the number 00, can you please identify yourself? You may have to press *6 if you're muted.
I don't know if I like Google Meets.
I've gotten so used to it. It's this.
Yeah,
weird.
you're used
Okay,
to it.
what about the one that is in the phone number 08?
We had to download all the platforms because we have so many meetings in statewide. We have Google Meets, we have Zoom, we have
Justin,
GoToWebinar, we have
Hey, Justin, this is John
just all
Gutierrez.
these platforms.
Thank you, John. I'm trying to find out so we can
WebEx.
check for a
Ugh,
quorum.
that's the worst one.
Oh, yeah.
That's awful.
So far, I've only been involved in the Google Meet and the
Zoom.
We're keeping our distance. Okay. Well, until I just get off.
Y'all ready? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Economic Incentive Board on Friday, February 5th, 2021. Due to the Governor Lujan Grisham's order limiting the number of attendees at gatherings, the Economic Incentive Board meeting will not be open to the general public. The public is invited to view the meeting on Suddenlink Channel 10 or at www.cityofclovis.org and at Facebook at City of Clovis, New Mexico. To call in questions that you may have, please dial 575-763-9200, which will be shared with the board. At this time, if I could get the clerk to please call roll.
Justin Howalt,
Here.
Raymond Mondragon,
Here.
Megan Paula,
Here.
JD Gutierrez,
Here?
Brett Johnson,
Here.
Gail Tarson,
Here.
Latrice Brooks,
Here.
Joseph Blaschke,
I'm here.
Hoyt Pattison, and Kevin Cass.
Here.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to welcome Joseph. This is your first in-person meeting, so welcome to the Environmental Improvement Board. We look forward to working with you over the term of your appointment.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. The first order of business we have today is the approval of the minutes from December 9th, 2020. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes, and if so, if there's any changes? If not, a recommendation for approval.
I move for approval of the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. All right, for our only agenda item for approval today is the discussion and action regarding the Xenia LLC project. Mr. Gentry.
Yes, in your packet today, you will see there's a revised application for Xenia LLC. They had applied back in October, November for an industrial revenue bond, for a 20-year industrial revenue bond. After going back and reviewing their previous application, they submitted a letter to change their request from a 20-year industrial revenue bond to an 11-year industrial revenue bond. And so we took that letter and that request for a 30% payment in lieu of taxes. We did have an IRB subcommittee meeting, which the mayor chairs, of which Brett Johnson's on there, the vice chairman of the EIB board. And the committee reviewed the request and made a recommendation to the EIB board that you consider approving this revised request for 11-year industrial revenue bond with a 30% payment in lieu of taxes. I do have some of the owners of the facility, the applicants on the line. Uh, Parim Kumar and her husband, and Danny Girawala here in Clovis are on the line to answer any question or discuss the project. As you know, this is the $18 million hotel going up on North Prince. It's a Hampton Inn and a Home 2 Suites hotel, which is an extended stay hotel. That's going to really be a benefit, I think, to Clovis. Obviously, they hit this construction time during the pandemic times, and as you know, one of the biggest industries that's been hit is the tourism industry, and the hotel industry seems with the COVID-19 situation. So there was in the previous motion that y'all moved to approve or recommend the city on the 20-year bond, there was the introduction of ordinance, or the resolution was denied with the 20-year bond. So this is coming back with a shorter term that hopefully meets the needs of the city as well as the applicants. And I would turn it over to Danny or Corinne and her husband, if you have any comments about how's the project going, Corinne? Can you explain? You're muted.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, so the project is moving along pretty well. It's finished framing, it has a roof, and they've started sheetrocking the fourth floor. We are still looking at opening the hotel the very next quarter of 21. We would like you guys to consider a shorter term to help us kind of recover from the COVID. And as the hotel, like Chase had mentioned, the hotel industry has really, really been devastatedly hit hard. And we had already, we're at a point in the project where we couldn't, we had to move forward. And so if this would really, really help us, and we're trying to meet it where we can meet everyone, help a little bit, and then hopefully get a little assistance for committing so much to the community.
And also in your packet, I thought you mentioned that Danny had gone around to the hotel, many of the hotels in Clovis, and there's a letter in your packet talking about that they don't feel like it's a competition to them, and they support the industrial revenue bond. There was some concern, at least a few, that they thought that some hotels might be against it, but that letter, Danny worked with them to show that there's support within the industry here in the Clovis community.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's, yes, but you're right. He did go and talk with most of the local hotel owners, and they're in support because of the construction also costing more due to COVID. That's also another concern, that the building is going to cost a lot more than anticipated, and we don't even know where that will end up due to COVID.
Thank you. Mr. Girawala, do you want to make any comments?
Yes, I did. I raised the hand, and I'm sorry, I'll lower it again. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having us this morning and giving us an opportunity to explain it to you. Why is it a need for us and assistance with this project? Initially, when this project was submitted with a 20-year of IRB, there were few concerns. It was voted down, so it was my priority to understand, working hand in hand with our community leaders. Obviously, they always thinking better of the community as well. And I went around and we figured out that what their issues were and what were their bother. We went across several other hotels and explained it to them that why they should be in support, or if they would be in support after explaining our case, is because, including me, my hotels are operating currently. I am an owner of 2 hotels here in Clovis, New Mexico, Super 8 and a Best Western. We all know, and I know myself, that our cost of building is already done and everything is all That's not the part of it. It's not going to be affected with the pandemic, which on the other side, the construction of a brand new hotel is getting affected. Also, I would like to bring it to the board's attention that this project broke ground even before the COVID restrictions were put in place or anything like that. So we were heavily invested in this before the COVID started, you know. And just because the project and the hotel was not opened, we would not qualify for any assistance from any federal, state, city, county, no grants whatsoever. And as Pareen had mentioned that the inflation of the cost of the material and the logistics delays have already started pushing the cost up for this project. So when we explained it to the hotel owners that I approached, and I told them that as me myself as well, I know that we received those assistances. But when this hotel is completed and open, it's gonna open to the COVID era business, and we all know how it goes. From when it all started, from 3 months to, and there were some year-end statistics that came out that were really shocking, and something to know about is that the hotel industry's RevPAR was down 50%. It has never seen, that is revenue per available room, by the way, just want to let you know. And the ADR and the occupancy were equally hit, because the occupancy and the RevPAR, they go hand in hand. So about that much, and the hotel industry or any industry has not seen this kind of a hit since 1946. Since 1946. So we would open the doors to the business with the clientele that everybody would be fighting for, with and limited, and people would not be traveling. So our purpose is only one purpose, is to come to the board to ask for assistance, which would assist us in some sort. Whereas the businesses that are open are already getting assistance, including mine, you know. And that's our biggest thing that we want to bring it to your attention. But again, the first decline, when the city commission knocked it down, we made sure that we worked. We still want to work. We are not in a business of opening a hotel in any place and just asking for assistance. This is the first of its ever kind that we are doing it from our point of view too. Dan Kumar has built several hotels, several hotels, but there has not been a case where he has gone himself to ask for similar assistance. And I rest my case, and I would answer any questions that you would have. But as far as explaining to the hotel owners, they understood the part of it, and then they were able to sign the letter of support.
Thank you, Mr. Jarawala. Is there any other information that the applicants would like to provide us before going to questions from the board? All right.
I would like to emphasize, I know everything was written in the paper and in the application that we submitted, but we would be creating a payroll of over $500,000 payroll per year, which would range from general manager's position to assistant manager's position to front desk manager's position, supervisor, head housekeeper. Just to give you an idea, I own a 66-room hotel and a 96-room hotel. Between the two hotels, I have about 45 employees, you know. And over there, we would have the similar creation of the jobs, you know. Since those two hotels are going to be one hotel, I'm saying on a lower end, we would at least create 25 jobs. But if anything more, then it could go as high as close to 45 to 50, you know, position once we are full-fledged going. So I wanted to share that very important piece of information with you guys as far as creating the job is. And we are not a publicly traded company. We don't have public's money to go and invest somewhere, and we decide that we want to put a pause onto something. These are all our hard-earned money, which we are reinvesting into the community, you know. And we obviously, and Dan Kumar has roots in Clovis for 20 plus years now, that even though he's based in Albuquerque, he is the recent owner of the Hampton Inn that was abandoned, like no bank owned it, and there was no owner, and there was a lot revenue for the city of Clovis, and he is turning that property around it too. So I just want to let you know that all our heart and our heart and everything is in this community, and that's why we are reinvesting into this community. We can not see any business, especially a hotel industry or a hospitality industry business failing in this community, and he has stepped up to make sure that that revenue always continue to come in, So that's the only thing I want to mention. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
That's okay, thank you, Danny. Chase, I do have a question, inside the application, there was a chart provided to start phasing out the amount of they said the property tax. However, I'm assuming that you can't pay a portion of your property tax and PILT payments. So would that just be an increased PILT payment beginning in year 7? So going from 30% to a 50% PILT payment?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so then if we're increasing that 20% a year, beginning in year 7, we would end at 90% in year 9, and then another 10% in year 10 to bring it to 100%, and then they would be going back to full payment. So it would basically be a 10-year PILT, and then start repaying 100% of their property taxes at year 11.
That's correct. But the IRB would run through that year 11, so they wouldn't go back on the tax rolls until year 12. So that 11th year payment would come through the IRB PILT.
Okay, so we would be receiving 100% though in year
For that 1
10
year.
and for year 10 and year 11. Because if you started it, if we were at 30% already, which was proposed, and then we had 20% each year beginning in year 7, at year 9 that would put us at 90%. So at year 10 they'd only need to increase an additional 10% to get to 100%.
Is that what you understood, Danny?
Yes. That's exactly how it is, sir. So what's gonna happen is that we were gonna phase it out, and it's my error when I drafted in. It was on a 65%, but now it's coming to the 70%. So I did not evaluate that part. But it's basically what we are trying to say is, the abatement, which would be obviously we'll be making the 30% payment in lieu every year, during the IRB bond. It's only about that 70%. 20% of that 70% is going to keep on phasing out, and it's going to keep on adding, and it's going to go by 20%, 20%, 20%, and then final year, 11th year, we would be paying the whole 100%.
Mr. Blaschke?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you
I
have
think
question?
I think I followed that. So
Yeah.
when you get to year 7, you've been paying 30%. You're going to pay an additional 20% of the 70% abatement.
Thank you
Oh,
so
okay.
much.
So over a 5-year period, that 70% abatement goes away.
Yes, that's what
20% at a time. 20% of the 70, not 20% of the 100.
Correct.
100. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
I didn't get any.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to address the committee on this a little bit. I was on the subcommittee and we voted to approve it, and I just wanted to tell you why after I was the one that voted against it when it first came up. This IRB will not affect this committee, and I voted for it just because of that reason. The FF&E will already be purchased by the time this goes into effect, so there's no gross receipts tax on that. And then the customers don't get an exemption from the tax. So it's just property tax. So I looked at it just as being the vice chair of this committee, that it didn't impact my committee, and that's why I voted for it. And I will let the city commissioners vote about the property tax, make the decision on the property tax part. I just wanted to explain that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to accept this or pass this.
Well, I have some concerns I'd like to discuss. I guess my concerns are kind of this, along the same lines that the city commission mentioned their meeting when they voted this down. Their first concern was there was a lack of support from other hotel owners. And in our minutes from the last meeting that we had, it was stated that Zinnia LLC would have a letter from all of the hotel owners saying they have no objection. So looking at the letter that was submitted, there's 6 signatures on the letter dated 10/22 of 20. But my concern is, one, I can't read whose signature is on there. I don't know what hotel they own. And because I don't know that, I look at the Zinnia application, the original application, at the 7 owners of Zinnia LLC, and it looks to me like there's a lot of the same names, which I kind of have an issue with that because I don't feel like every hotel owner in Clovis was necessarily contacted, and some hotel owners might not be for this, and it's definitely going to give Zinnia LLC a competitive advantage by not having to pay property taxes in full for 11 years. That also kind of leads to the commission's second objection, was that it was a long-term solution for a short-term problem. And I agree the hotel industry has been hit terribly hard during this pandemic. But you state, Mr. Jariwala, in this letter, and I believe you made the comment, that travel should return to normal in 2025. That still leaves, so if we look at the chart here, in 2025, and I may be a year off here, but it looks like Zinnia is going to still, once travel returns to normal, hotel occupancy returns to normal, Zinnia will still have 7 years of potential property tax abatement. That's a long time, I think, for the city and the schools to lose out on, hundreds of thousands of dollars of property taxes. And you also made the comment that Zinnia was not eligible for any of the PPP loans, the CARES Act grants, the economic incentive disaster loans from the SBA. But that's true. Those were designed by the federal government to be a shot in the arm for current businesses that are open. And Zinnia LLC wouldn't have brought in any revenue whether there was a pandemic or not, because it was under construction. So I guess that argument, I kind of have some concern with that argument as well. And lastly, and correct me if I'm wrong, are property taxes on hotels set at gross receipts from the hotel instead of the investment in the facility?
And so when I reached out to, thank you, Ms. Paula, when I reached out to the county tax assessor, she said that hotel valuations are based off of an income approach and not a value approach of the property. And so I'm not in the hotel industry. And so Mr. Jariwala or Mr. and Ms. Kumar, is that your understanding of how your property taxes are calculated?
This is Mr. Jariwala. And I'm only in 5 years into this business as a hotel owner, but Corrine and Dan have been, but please correct me if I'm incorrect, and please don't take my 100% word on it. But as far as I know, the property taxes are calculated as per the appraisal. The county and them, they do the appraisal of the land and the property, and then certain percent of it is taxable, and that's how that's how it's determined.
Correct, partly correct. So it's a valuation based also on the revenue of the hotel. So the building is worth what, they also, obviously the construction cost, as well as the revenue that it produces, the valuation is based on that. and then property taxes are based on the total equation.
So that kind of is my point a little bit. If property taxes on hotels are based on revenue, and revenue is down for the next 3 years for the hotel, then your property taxes will be down as well, correct?
So we're not,
Ms. Pe-
So it's a very minimal part of the equation. It is the probably 80% of it is the value of the building and the actual cost of the building. Very small portion of it is based on the actual revenue. It might not even impact it to a swaying level, but it is figured in there, but it's not weighed very heavily.
Ms.
That's
Pella,
Mr.
I'd
Chairman?
just like to add something to it. You are absolutely correct if the hotel is open and doing business. This hotel's construction cost is not gonna change. It's always gonna be there. So the $18 million project that we mentioned is purely, it's no goodwill added to it. Let me put it that way. Like, no, the business part of it is not added to it, you know, as far as that goes.
Correct.
So, like, if I'm out there trying to sell my Best Western, so the appraiser comes here and he says that, okay, you do $100,000 worth of business. Okay, there are few states, what they do is price per multiplying revenue or something like that. That's what they do. But that's existing hotel which is doing business. And when the appraisal comes out, that's when they look at it that way. And then I would like to respond absolutely to your concern. And like I said, Ms. Pella, I absolutely respect everybody's concern, but I would like to add something to your first two concerns that you had presented, that it's not the all hotels that owner on the signature. We had mentioned that we'll try to get the support letter from most of them. Now, I would be more than happy to present you which hotels signed for it and which hotel owners signed for it. I do understand that my signature is in there as well, and that I'm the only, and just to clarify that, I'm the only Xenia owner that has signed that letter, which owns 2 hotels. But my purpose is pretty simple to explain it to the board, is that when I explained it to them, and obviously there's a disagreement in Washington, D.C. too. You cannot get 100% vote unless, you know, it's something. So I tried to explain it to mostly all of them. A couple of the hotel have corporate offices in Utah, and all, you know, I've tried to approach them, but failed. So in order to move this process ahead, which did not further delay it, I got as many signatures as possible for you to look at it. At least there is a support to it. So I'm sorry if you got a misunderstanding saying that we would get it from all the hotel owners, but we just meant to say we'll approach the most of them, and whoever signs it will at least present that there is some support for it. A small business, like, you know, a small hotel or a big hotel or anybody like that. So, and if you would like to know the people who signed for it, I can give you the hotel's names and owners as well. And it was, I think it was bad on my part. I should have done that in first place. But that's a valid question. At least we know that you're on top of it to check, put us in place. Thank you. The next question would be that a long-term solution to the short-term problem. The proposal of a IRB has an upfront cost of $40,000 to $60,000 also when we try to present it to you. With my projections, when I had mentioned that it would be there for 2025 or anything like that, obviously from the 3 years that we're going to open the brand new business, we are digging a hole, because we will do everything in our power to make sure that that hotel does not go belly up after the day 1 or first month that we open the doors to. So what will happen is that it might need a lot more injection of revenue, of capital, operating expense, I'm sorry, which we are going to do that too. Obviously, it's too big for us to fail because our livelihood is invested in it. You know, I want to let you know that I've broken my kids' education fund money, to invest into this when we were approached to reinvest more, put more liquidity into it. So I just want to let you know, Ms. Pella, the urgency and the importance of this project to success for ourselves as much as I would like it to be successful for the city of Clovis. But we just can't take this ride alone during this tough time. So the 3 years that you're saying that we would be open to while everybody's getting hurt and getting assistance from federal government, and I heard that they're going to pass another $1.9 trillion relief. And this will keep on going if they don't recover, because they would hate for this hotel industry to fail. We would not be the part of it. We would be left alone to fend for ourselves during these times once we open the doors to go for the same clientele that's coming in. So don't look, I would advise you to try to look at that part as not just the 3 years only, but we're giving them 7 years, but that 3 years worth of loss that we'll have, you're missing that part of it. That will come out of our pockets, or some of our other businesses that are going to try to invest into it to make sure that it does not go belly up. But important thing is that we would not have any assistance. And that's what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Jarwal.
And I was a part of, and the idea of the phase out came to me because I was in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, and I was managing a hotel for my previous owner. They had a 25-year abatement, tax abatement in Brooklyn. But the way they had designed is that 15 years of 100% abatement of whatever part, and then the 10 years, they were phasing out 10%, the last 10 years, and the 25th year it would be 100%. The reason for it is that you don't want to put a sudden burden of that 100% tax abatement on the 70%, and then boom, all of a sudden, a heavy expense, the very next year. Determining the term, that how short the term is, I figured out that we would do 20% out of it. And that's what it is. Those are my explanations, Ms. Pella.
I think we've
as
already
far as
beat
your
that horse.
concerns are. And I would be available over the phone, my email address, if you would like, and we can discuss this in detail if you would like.
Thank you, Mr. Jarwal. Mr. Pulaski, you had a question?
No,
comment?
they addressed my question.
All
I
right.
believe Mr. Mondragon had.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for asking the question on the property tax. That was one of the ones I had marked number one to ask. Also, this is for Chase or the vice chairman of the subcommittee. On the initial IRB qualifying test, did that qualifying test change any for the 11-year IRB? Did it remain the same?
The test wouldn't change whether it was a 20-year or 11-year.
Okay, thank you. Also, the last vote we took was, it was 8-2, 8 yeses and 2 nos. And the commission did have some concerns as Member Paula addressed today as well. The question for the vice chairman is, did that question also come up during your subcommittee hearings, Mr. Johnson, in regards to the concern that the commission had about the hotel owners being notified and so forth? Was that addressed during your subcommittee?
I don't remember it being addressed.
Okay. And your subcommittee meeting, it was a unanimous vote, is that correct?
I believe that's right.
And the 11-year bond IRB does not put the city, once again, just for the record, does not put the city in any monetary binding authority towards that IRB.
Well, it doesn't cost this committee anything, but it does the city.
Okay. Yeah, the committee. Thank you.
But I mean, this fund, the way it was explained to me, it does not affect this fund.
And I know there was a question asked previously to the attorney, the city attorney. This is legal of what we're doing, however, it hasn't been challenged. If I remember that answer question, is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct. So there has been an IRB done for a hotelier in Albuquerque. And as he said, there's not any case law that's ever challenged it.
And I saw under the 11-year, as Mr. Jerry Orwala and the Kumars have stated in here in the bond, is that in the report, the updated report, we would have up to 25 employment positions. And I think Jerry, during his address, said as they open and move on, possibly more positions, employment positions. I guess my point is that I concur with the subcommittee's recommendation, and I think this would be an advantage to the city. It would help, again, Cannon Air Force Base. I know that they're always looking for additional hotels and so forth, and I just think that it would be advantageous to the city to move forward with this. I'm prepared to make the second.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Do we have any other comments, questions?
I would
Mr.
like
Rice.
to add just a couple comments for the record. To the point that the city commission discussed this in their meeting and voted to deny the initial request for the IRB on the basis of unknown response from other hotel owners in the community and the length of the project. The counter proposal has cut the length virtually in half, including a phase-out portion that seems reasonable to me. That addresses, I think, sufficiently the city's concern regarding the length. Regarding the support of other hotel owners, no, there's not a signature of every hotel owner in Clovis on this letter, but there is also not a letter protesting or stating that they would not like this to go ahead. There was front page newspaper coverage of the city commission meeting when this was discussed back in December. It was well publicized in the community. Public comment was invited and encouraged. If nobody has a problem to speak up and say, hey, I don't want this to happen, then I don't know how much weight ought to be given to the possibility that they might not want it to happen. And so I just want to add those two comments for the record. I think that the work done here to address the city commission's concerns is admirable and is worth, you know, they were told no, and this group could have just turned around and said, okay, we're just going to hunker down and do it. They've come back instead and said, hey, we would like some additional help, and we're willing to take less help than we initially asked for because anything is beneficial. Regarding the dollar amount of the potential benefit to the hotel versus to the city, the creation of 25 jobs and the payroll of $500,000 and the sustainable infrastructure to Clovis long-term increases the city's property tax revenue for a temporary forfeiture of 7 full years of the income. To me, that math adds up pretty favorably to the city. And to the perspective of the other existing hotels, they have received hundreds of thousands of dollars in benefit from federal and state level handouts for which this particular project was not eligible because of the timing of the project opening and starting and when construction began. And because they had already begun construction prior to any of the shutdowns and any of the news and any of the anything, they couldn't very well just leave a framed building on dirt and abandon the property, which would have been terrible for the city of Clovis. And rather than walking away and leaving sticks on the ground, they've stuck to it and are now asking for our help. It seems to me that that makes good sense.
Just to follow up before the vote, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's nice to have a banker on the committee because I think that's well spoken. But just to follow up, this area, this region received $54 million. 466 businesses received part of that $54 million in
Yes.
PPP monies and or SBA and or USDA and or. But anyway, to your point, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to actually go to Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Cass on the phone. Obviously, with them being via Meet, it's a little more difficult, but see if y'all had any comments. Mr. Cass, do you have any comments?
This is,
Go ahead, John.
this is John Gutierrez. I don't have any comments. I think, you know, what they're trying to do, and I agree with the baker saying if they, shut it all down, they'd leave a bad eyesore here in Clovis. So that's the only thing I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Mr. Cass, do you have any comments?
I don't. I believe the questions that I had were answered.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I've got a question. You guys are the lenders. Are you telling us that you're gonna shut those guys off if we don't pass this?
I'm saying no such thing.
Okay,
I am
'cause-
not in a
'cause you
position at
indicated-
the Bank of Clovis
you
to
indicated that
influence
it would
that
be-
whatsoever.
Okay.
So-
So the financing is set already? Okay. This is just a benefit to them long-term. I just want to make sure.
So when Mr. Jarawala mentioned earlier that the partners and owners of the hotel were required to make additional capital injections in the project out of their pocket, I can speak to say that that was pressured from the financing end of things, that these folks are very committed to what they're doing. And I am not in a position at the bank to influence this loan or this credit in any way, shape, or form, or I would not speak to it on this committee. But no, there's not any danger of any kind of action happening there. That would merely be a decision made by the ownership group, if it ever came to that. And my comments were more specifically to the actions the ownership group took last March and April, when they had already begun construction, and then it became very clear that their costs of construction would increase significantly, and that their potential revenue from the construction would be significantly decreased. They could have decided at that time, independently on their own, to just walk away and cut their losses. There were plenty of other hotels that had begun construction around the U.S. who decided to take that route. This group stuck to it, so that's all.
And Mr. Chairman, and to your point too, is this could be a test also on this type of an IRB. And with the COVID in 2020, communities are having an economic development, are having to think outside the box to try to survive in some of their infrastructure needs and in buildings and businesses and so forth. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll call for the question.
Thank you. So with that, I'm gonna call for the question, motion in a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Brett Johnson,
Yes.
Gail Tarson,
Yes.
Latrice Brooks,
Yes.
Joseph Blaschke,
Yes.
Kevin Cass,
Yes.
Justin Howalt,
Yes.
Raymond Mondragon,
Yes.
Megan Paula,
No.
JD Gutierrez.
Yes.
Thank you, and the yeses have it. So this is, just to remind the applicant and members of this board, this is just a recommendation to the city commission. And so this will be presented to the city commission at their next meeting, which will be held on February the 18th. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is for the good of the order. And just to let this group know that the city commission approved last night an ordinance restructuring the membership of this board. They're actually reducing it down to a 9-member board, moving myself as well as the executive director for the CIDC to ex officio position. And so that actually becomes effective 5 days after it was passed, so last night, 5 days from then. And so this will actually be my last board meeting of chairing this board. It's been a pleasure working with each other. I will still be here, obviously. But in the future, we'll call another board meeting so we can handle the organizational function of this board and get a new chairman and vice chairman elected. So with that, it's been a pleasure. And I thank you guys for serving on this board. And with that, I call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks
Thank you.
for being our fearless leader too,
Yes.
Justin.
Absolutely.
You've been a good chairman, and I want to wish the Xenia people, Jerry or Mr. Giriala and the Kumars good luck on their endeavor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Mr. Jerry. I want to just thank everybody too, and thank you for your
Oh, I should've
support.
said
And I would time and time remind that this decision was not something that you would regret, and I will make sure that the city benefits out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.